Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Goodison Park, my home. I'm glad to be joined by Leon Osman. You okay, Leon?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you, and better than the weather, that's for sure. Could do with the Great British Summer finally making an appearance. But what will be one of the highlights of the summer, before we go into obviously Leon's life and times with the Blues, of course, 433 appearances in the top 10 there with Dixie Dean, no less. Leon's going to actually be the master of ceremonies for a very special event coming up at Goodison Park. It's Gwladys Street Presents Cult Heroes, where Leon will be joined by his former teammates Tommy Gravesen, Lee Carsley, plus 90s icon Daniel Amokachi. Now that's all happening on Wednesday, the 21st of August, 7:30 p.m. at Goodison. Tickets available now on the club's website. I mean, Leon, obviously, we're all looking forward to that historic final season at Goodison, but this one is going to be a great night to kick things off, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I'm very proud to have been asked to do. Something I'm very excited about, both presenting it and also just being a part of it. And looking forward to speaking to the ex-players and the way that the club are looking to celebrate the last season at Goodison Park, such a historic stadium, such a brilliant place. There's going to be a few events through the years. The first one is Cult Heroes. They're all Gwladys Street Presents events, so it's going to be exciting. I'm hoping I'm up to the task.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll go straight in there with your former teammates, Lee Carsley and Tommy Gravesen, a couple of huge characters, a couple of great players as well. I mean, what would that pair just like to be alongside in the midfield?
Well, brilliant. I mean, the joke has always been down the years that you couldn't tell them apart. Real Madrid wanted to sign both of them and ended up with just Tommy, but in that they got an outstanding player.
Yeah,
Tommy Gravesen is arguably the best technical player I ever played with. Lee Carsley, defensively, was outstanding. They were both good characters on, but also off the pitch. A lot of fun, different humour, different sets of characteristics that make up individual players and teams. And I'm really looking forward to be able to see them again, spend the evening with them, ask some brilliant questions, bring up some stories that we've both been a part of as well. So it's going to be a really good event. You just mentioned the weather. I'm presuming we'll get the weather for that one.
I hope so. Yeah,
Grand old lady will help us in that sense. But it should be fantastic. Big stage being built within the penalty area. It's going to look amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, how are you going to actually keep them under control? You mentioned a different sense of humour there. I can imagine Lee's quite dry, but fair to say, Tommy more of the sort of the wacky sense of humour, or how would you describe his demeanour? I mean, they called him Mad Dog, didn't he? But
yeah, I mean, I just hope the stage is big enough. Back in the day, he couldn't keep still. His humour was physical. That kind of always up to something. Couldn't. Ants in his pants kind of thing. He needed to be doing something. Lee's Cars is the opposite, really. It's probably why it made their relationship work so well.
Yeah.
Lee was the guy that would sit back and drop a comment here or there, just see the humour build, and very dry sense of humour. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting them to be themselves on the stage, to get them to be the characters that we fell in love with and all loved watching playing football as well.
Yeah, and then of course Daniel Amokachi, Joe Royal said, greatest substitution he never made. You think you're gonna have some fun times with the Nigerian striker?
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll have some fun around that. But Amo was a great lad as well, but also more of an icon for myself. Growing up through the 90s, seeing him playing on the football pitch, that semi-final itself, the time he spent at Goodison Park was fantastic. You speak to his teammates, you speak to Graham Stewart, for instance, and he's got nothing but good things to say about Amokachi, both on and off the pitch, about his humour, about the fun they got up to. So there'll be some stories that'll come out from their relationship itself, never mind just from any other teammates that comes along. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing Dan.
Yeah, so the first of many events throughout the season, Gwladys Street Presents Cult Heroes. Again, that's Wednesday, 21st of August, 7:30 p.m. with the tickets now available on the club website now. Leon, if we go back right to the beginning for yourself at Everton, did you actually remember when you played at Goodison Park for the very first time?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was a Youth Cup game.
Yeah.
Back in 97.
97, 98 when you won it, yeah.
Yeah, we won it 97, 98. So then we played a game before Christmas. It may have been Ipswich at home.
Yeah.
It was one of a few games that we went on to win. We had a great run.
Yeah.
In the FA Youth Cup that year, we beat Blackpool away. That was the first game. We beat a good few teams en route to winning the competition in my first year at the club. So it was a great step. It was a great first moment because, when you're a young player, you are used to playing football in Sunday league situations, and then you're playing for the club. To be playing a game at that age in the stadium at Goodison Park, it was nearly completely empty. There was a couple of hundred people watching the game, but that didn't make it any less special, I can tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been a great moment for the family there. I know you did really well in that run, didn't you? You scored a few goals. Was there an injury though when it came to the second leg of the final? But you did really well in that run.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed playing within that football team. We had an outstanding team. I think we knew that we had good players. You never know what they're necessarily going to go on to become. I mean, Borley didn't even play in the Youth Cup run. He was already in the first team.
Yeah.
Daniel Amokachi played. Richard Dunn played. Hibbo played. There was a good few right across that. I'm sure they'll kick off at me for not mentioning them all. But it was a really, really good team. Yeah, I was unfortunate that I scored in the first leg of the final. And then as I was on the bus on the way back, I just started to feel an issue with my knee, which meant that I couldn't play in the second leg of the final. I missed it. I was stood on crutches. I didn't make any of the celebratory pictures after the game. You look back at the team picking the trophy up, I never made one single picture.
Yeah.
But, it was a great time at that moment. It was just unfortunate that I didn't get on the pitch to pick the trophy up, and it was the start of a 4-year period of serious injury problems for me, which thankfully I was able to get over in the end.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously you went on to, you're now in the club's top 10 appearance holders alongside Dixie Dean there, but your actual first start didn't come till just before your 23rd birthday, but in between then a couple of loan spells at Carlisle United and Derby County. And I'll come back about your Everton debut in a minute, but how important were those loan spells for your development?
Yeah, definitely. I think nowadays, I think that's the more natural route to be making progressions into the first team. It wasn't necessarily the norm back then. It wasn't what everybody did.
No,
most people played reserve team football, made that grade. The managers saw potential within the players. For me, I think maybe my size made David Moyes not completely convinced. He wanted me to go out on loan. I went twice, as you say, went to Carlisle. I think that one was more for me to show that, I could play league football. And I think the second one was to show David Moyes himself that I was capable of playing at that level. I played pretty well for both clubs. I scored some important goals. I thoroughly enjoyed my time on loan at both clubs.
Yeah. To
the point that I was really pleased that Everton wanted me back. I said, I hope Everton want me back. It's where I want to be. But I enjoyed playing for both clubs.
Yeah, and in between that, I was just checking. You made your debut at Spurs in January 2003. That was a 4-3 loss. But then I was looking at the footage there from your Goodison debut. That late win against Villa, Wayne Rooney's winner. To be fair, you did well to get out the way for that one. I mean, what do you remember from that particular? That must have been a magic moment.
Yeah, I thought I'd nearly ruined me Everton first team career in that moment, getting in the way of a last-minute Wayne Rooney shot. Yeah, it was. I think actually, if you look back at a good chunk of the Everton goals when I was in the team, I've done well to get out the way of quite a few of them. I felt like my teammates were aiming for me at times, or I was just maybe in the wrong position. Yeah. But I managed to get out the way of that one. It was intense. I got on for the last couple of minutes to try and make a difference. And thankfully, I don't think I actually contributed an awful lot other than getting out the way of Wayne's shot, but it was great to be on the pitch. And, that was my first real, full Goodison Park last minute goal experience. And I'm thankful to say I had many more to come.
Yeah, of course. I mean, see, you talked about your own development then and the loan spells, but just when Wayne was that age, just what was he like to play alongside? He was like a force of nature when he was so young.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm about 3 or 4 years older than Wayne, maybe even a touch more, but you knew he was coming.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best to work as hard as I can, show the manager I can play in the first team. You knew Wayne was on his way. You knew there was nothing I could do to stop the progression he was going to make. He was going to jump past us. He didn't even really play in the youth team. His journey was so quick. He went from schoolboys football to the first team squad. So he was outstanding. It was just so natural for him. He could just do things that other people couldn't do. It was as if he never really had to practice anything. It was just all so natural for him to go and hit the crossbar from the halfway line in one go, put one in the top corner without really trying. I mean, some of the goals he scored in his team's Youth Cup run to the final were absolutely ridiculous. So, there was nothing going to stop Wayne playing first team football for Everton and England.
Yeah. And then obviously your own first start came a couple of weeks before your 23rd birthday at Molineux. I mean, you personally got off to a great start. Was it just about 3 minutes in on the score sheet? And what a way to begin. I mean, but you'd waited a long time for that moment and you took it.
Yeah, that was it. It was a long time in coming, and I didn't realize, 2 minutes in, that the impact that would make. And I knew the feeling when I scored the goal. I knew it was 5 years worth of emotion coming out in one celebration of having scored so quickly. And I've got a picture that I look back fondly on of myself, Wayne Rooney, James McFadden, Tony Hibbert, the four of us celebrating, having we're all still young players, all still trying to do our best. Mine and Hibbo's journey was one that was probably 25 years, to be honest, in playing football together. So it was good that I was able to celebrate that moment with them.
Yeah, and it was an incredible turnaround that summer because the club had just finished 17th and on 39 points. You had written off. Wayne had left the club, gone to Manchester United, and then you embarked on what proved to be the club's highest ever Premier League finish, 4th, and shocked the footballing world. Yeah.
It's strange, but it just felt normal to me. That was my first full season as a first team player. So, it sounds strange, but what came before I was obviously aware of, but it's different when you step into being an actual part of the first team. And from that moment of me getting in, we finished 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 5th. Yeah. It just felt that's where we belonged. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was an unbelievable season. As you said, everybody had written us off. There was no pressure on us. We had a really relaxing and enjoyable pre-season together where we worked as hard as we could, but we bonded quite well. We had a really small squad. That always helps with you to feel a part of it and feel closer. Yeah. And we got off to a really difficult start playing the Invincibles on the opening day, which you'd think would make us step backwards, but it didn't. It helped us move forward, and we won at Palace in the second game and just didn't look back after that.
Yeah, I mean, I was checking the stats. He got 7 goals that year. An early a brace against West Brom, and then there was an 88th minute winner against Southampton, last minute winner against Pompey. Those sort of moments stand out, like you said. Those late goals at Goodison. Yeah,
I mean, I think that was one of the things about our team back then. I scored a couple of late goals, certainly, but I wasn't the only one. We just had a hunger, a desire, a belief to use all 90 minutes of the game, or 94 at times, to make sure we could get the result we wanted. And it was brilliant to score my first goal at Goodison. I've got again, it was a great moment to have. And then the last minute goals, both at the Gwladys Street, one under the floodlights. I don't think it gets better than a last minute goal at the Gwladys Street end under the floodlights. Especially one that means something, and that kept us on the journey that we were on. We didn't want to drop points in that game. We'd lost, I think, to Charlton a couple of days before. We needed to win that game.
Yeah.
So it was a great feeling to be the player that scored that goal.
Yeah, I mean, how much of the success that season was down to that team spirit and that togetherness? Obviously, Tommy left in the January, but obviously there's Lee Carsley's winner in the derby as well, having those characters around you.
Yeah, it was huge. It was, a massive part of what made us a success. Because when you've got that character and that kind of feeling within your squad, and by the way, don't discount the quality that we also had, as you said, with Tommy, Tim Cahill had joined. We had Marcus Bent playing up front. We had two experienced centre-backs in Stubbsy and Davey Weir. Joe Yobbo played a bit. Yeah. But because we had that bond, we'd run through brick walls for each other. We would give that extra little bit. Even if we didn't feel like we had it, you'd find it from somewhere to get the best out of you. And it definitely made us who we were. And we were also benefited from some good signings that David Moyes made throughout that season. I think he brought in James Beattie at Christmas or in the start of January. And I think when Tommy left, I think that's when he brought in Mikel Arteta as well. Yeah. So some really good additions to the team, just as we thought we were maybe going to have to take a step backwards. Suddenly we found ourselves making another step forwards.
Yeah. And then on the back of that, there was the signings made the following summer. Just go back to a story from your autobiography. Obviously, Per Kruldrup came in and centre back. I mean, you said, to be fair, he'd have probably done better these days in the Premier League, the way things are now. But you couldn't quite believe what you were seeing when he was going through a few heading drills with the gaffer.
Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, he would be a wonderful centre half. Right now, he did. He had a brilliant career, and certainly not criticising him or his abilities in any way. But he wasn't a David Moyes centre half.
No.
That's fair to say. Yeah, day one when David Moyes wasn't convinced that his centre half he just paid quite a bit of money for couldn't head the ball the way he wanted him to, and he was trying to make sure he timed his jumps better, and he was throwing the ball up and getting so frustrated that his. I can't remember exactly the price he paid for it, maybe £5 million back then, which was a lot of money. £5 million centre half couldn't head it in the way he wanted to, and Per then hardly got a game until Christmas because in the Premier League, physicality and heading the ball was a big part at that point. So it was a difficult period for him.
Yeah, another one he brought in, Simon Davis, a similar position to yourself. I mean, how did you feel about that? I mean, he didn't really have the sort of career at Everton that people thought he was going to have. Did you welcome the competition? How did you feel? Because you come on the back of that such a good season for yourself the year before.
Yeah, well, I had to welcome the competition. Yeah. Every single summer, David Moyes seemed to make one or two signings, and they were always where I'd played the previous season, which was I always took as a compliment to raise my game. I've him since. Yeah. But no, that meant that Simon Davis, who was a very good player, by the way, brilliant right foot, he went and played on the right midfield where I'd been playing. So then I ended up moving over to the left midfield, and Kev Kilban ended up moving on. I think he moved on to Wigan. It was one of them for me. I always seemed to find somewhere else in the team to play. David Moyes found another position for me. It was at the end of that season, that was the position he felt needed strengthening, and I'd go and play somewhere else within the team. It was a strange time, but I wouldn't change it because as you mentioned, I managed to stay in the team for many years. We had relative success with regards to cup semi-finals, cup finals, European runs, being in Europe 3 out of 4 seasons, something along them lines, and it was a good time to be an Everton player. Yeah,
I mean, just before we move on, in terms of the European nights, obviously there's that game against Larissa. We'll come to that. But when it was at the Villarreal draw, you worked so hard to get into the Champions League, and then you got tough tie against them, and the way things ended, just as a dressing room, as a club. I mean, what was it like taking a hit like that in such controversial circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, quite often people will say that, it didn't bother us and we moved on and we managed to get over it quickly. It's, our job to go on to the next game, but there's no doubting that actually did hurt us. Not only getting Villarreal, who ended up getting to the semi-finals that year. You get a qualifier. You get one of those games having finished fourth in the Premier League, and you get a team of that stature. I think other teams that were in the qualifying round that season may have got TNS to qualify or something along them lines, but we ended up getting Villarreal. So it was a difficult draw to take, but we should have had that goal. There's no doubt that Big Dunk's goal was legitimate. We had the momentum within that game, so it took us to extra time, and we felt very much on the front foot, and the game was in our hands. So it was a big blow to take. It rocked us for a few weeks. We played in Europe a couple of weeks later, didn't we? In the UEFA Cup,
Dynamo
and
Bucharest,
we got turned over in that. We hadn't quite recovered. We still felt frustration. We still felt the world was against us, and we didn't get over it as quick as we could. I think it took till not far short of Christmas before we were back to being ourselves and the team we knew we were.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years later, of course, much happier times in Europe. That run in the UEFA Cup and your goal, Larissa, we had to come to that one. That the goal of the decade. I mean, you just talk me through that one. I mean, people have actually mentioned that your footwork, just teeing you up for it even before you hit the strike. I mean, what do you remember of that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I remember not expecting Stephen to backheel it to me 25 yards out with nobody ahead of me. So it kind of made my decision for me that, I might as well have a shot from there. Yeah, I had to adjust my feet a little bit. I had to take bigger strides to make sure I was timing it right to be able to strike it well. And thankfully it went in. I mean, I think I set it off outside the goalposts, and I think that was the old Goodison crowd sucking it back in within the frame, at the Gwladys Street end, which was a great moment. But the reason that goal was voted as highly as it was the teamwork that built it to that point. It was I was fortunate to be the guy that finished it, but there was a lot of good work. We won the ball. We had it on the edge of our own penalty area. We moved it down the left. Baines and Tim Cahill, Stephen Peanut. There was some really good movement within that goal that made it that made it one that Evertonians liked.
Yeah, is it your favourite goal, or is there another one that stands out? Would that be your favourite from your career? You scored some belters.
It's arguably one of my. It's arguably my best. My favourite goals are both, as I touched on before. Goals I scored under the lights to win a game at the Gwladys Street end. There was the Portsmouth one that we just touched on. With a half volley left foot. One of the first real experiences of what that meant in the first full season. And then the one that I say is my favourite goal, which was a tap in from about 6 or 7 yards out in a game. I think it was my 400th game. I think I may have been captain in the game. Samuel Eto'o whipped it in, which is not something you ever think you're going to say with regards to scoring your favourite goal. And I won the game. The goal I scored won us the game. So we were on a bad run at that point. And all of that combined, the responsibility you feel, the experience I had, and I think that's what makes that one, that made the feeling of scoring that goal the best.
Yeah, just going back to that 07-08 team, because you played some lovely football that season. The 7-1 Sunderland managed to get on the score sheet again there. I mean, just what do you think that made that particular team so good that year in the way you were playing?
I think we had a little bit of everything at that point. We had Stephen Pienaar at that point. I don't know if Leighton was playing as often as he was about to. I think maybe Nuno Valente was still in and out the team at first in that point. But we all knew what Leighton and Stephen Pienaar were going to go on to become down the left-hand side. I think we had strikers. I think we had maybe the Yak at the top end of the pitch at that point. I think we had good balance in the middle. We had AJ for something different from Yak at the top end of the pitch. Tim was scoring the goals he did. Mikel was in great form.
Yeah.
And we had a good solid back four behind us. So I think that team had some great football players in it. And I think the majority were probably in their peak at that point as well. And I think that's what made that team very good.
Yeah. Given how brilliantly you did in the group stages there, and then obviously you steamrolled Bran in the first knockout round as well. Did you see that as one of the biggest sort of missed opportunities to win silverware under David Moyes in that 07-08 UEFA Cup run, given the way that things had panned out?
Yeah, I do. And I think if we'd have had the David Moyes that has just won a European Cup with West Ham, with the experience that he's had, with the knowledge, with the having been there and done that, I think that would have worked out a little bit differently. I think, in that first leg away at Fiorentina, we weren't great. We conceded the first goal in the 79th minute or the 80th minute or something. And, I think when you look back now, you think 1-0 away at Fiorentina wouldn't have been a bad result. No. But I think we made 2 attacking changes. I think we went 1-0 down and quickly put a striker on and an extra attacking midfielder on to try and get an away goal, which at the time felt necessary, but seems quite naive now. Because if we can take Fiorentina back to our place with a 1-0 deficit, I think we showed that we could, certainly score 2. We may have been able to even score more had it been necessary. So, it was an opportunity missed. Certainly, it was definitely a team that was capable of winning.
Yeah, I remember that second leg as well, and you absolutely battered them, and somehow it's remained 2-0, and paid the penalties in the end. I mean, who was going to take that 5th kick? Was it you? Was it Phil Neville? Do you remember?
No, I don't. I could tell you categorically it wasn't going to be me. David Moyes never let me near a penalty spot. After I missed the one against Middlesbrough in the Carabao Cup.
Right.
In one of my first appearances to get knocked out, and he never trusted me in that way again.
Okay. Well, the following season, another great run for yourself. Just looking there, I think it was 7 goals in 08-09, and obviously you got Everton on the way in the FA Cup, the winner at Macclesfield, and then all the way to the final. I mean, it was a great run. Liverpool, Manchester United on the way again. Was there a feeling that this was going to be your time?
Yeah, but it just, again, certainly no sour grapes about it. Football is what it is. I think Portsmouth had beaten Cardiff in the final the season before. There's been a couple of runs that people can avoid teams, or the run falls their way. If we're going to do it, we were going to have to do it the hard way. I think we beat Macclesfield in the first round, but then I think we played Middlesbrough in the Premier League, Villa are in the Premier League, Liverpool are in the Premier League, Man United are in the Premier League. We had as tough a run as you possibly could. You hope you can make it over that last hurdle, being Chelsea. Yeah, the semi-finalists that year was something like Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, and us. Yeah. It's not like the pre-season before when it might have been Swansea, Portsmouth, Cardiff, and who else knows where it might have been. So it was typical us, really, that that we found ourselves in that situation. But we still believed. You got off to an early start. You score within 25, 27 seconds or something. You hope it's going to carry on being that way. But Chelsea had a ridiculous team at that point. They had match winners all over the pitch, and unfortunately, they found 2 moments to take the game away from us.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember much about the day? I remember myself, obviously, being in the press box, how hot it was, because it was one of the latest ever cup finals, right at the end of the month, wasn't it? And it was just tough conditions out there.
Yeah. I think in England, probably the hottest conditions I played in.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you add to that the fact that they had those big pyrotechnics around the pitch, bursting flames into the air to say, welcome onto the pitch. I honestly thought I melted at that point. And then we attacked the left goal first half, which meant that me playing on that right-hand side, I was in the sun for the entirety of that first half. And it was a difficult day, basically trying to stop Ashley Cole being the best left-back in the world at that point. It was a tough afternoon.
Yeah. And then obviously we talked about the fact that you're obviously a relatively late starter, but then the way that you blossomed later in your career. I was actually checking the statistics, and from David Moyes' last season was actually your best goal scoring season. You got 8 that year, including scoring against City on your 300 start. I think you were captain that day. Did you think that you'd matured into your role and played some of your best football in your latter years?
Yeah, I did. I think anyone listening would say that I've never really relied on pace for my
Nice.
game.
Yeah.
So, it was about using the abilities I did have, tight control, seeing passes, and then, you get a bit more experience about when to make the runs, when to sit, when to see the game. You're seeing the game develop in different ways. So I definitely felt I matured. I thought I did get better with regards to performances. I managed to make an England debut at 31 years of age. There's not many make their debut that late, but I seem to do everything late in life, late in my career.
Yeah.
It was, it just seemed to be the way that things felt for me, that if I kept trying, I kept persevering, I kept believing that it was possible, that it was achievable. And I think that's something I'd always say to everybody if I'm ever asked for advice, that, never let anybody tell you something's not achievable or you're past your time, because if you work hard enough, you can make it happen.
Yeah, I'll come back to that England debut, and you obviously the game in San Marino as well in a moment. But just want to say about when David left. I remember you told the tale how it still came as a surprise, even though he'd run his contract down, when he gathered yourself and some of the club's other senior players in a hotel to break the news to you.
Yeah, it was still a surprise. It had been rumoured. He, as you said, run his contract down. It was certainly a huge possibility, but he'd been the Everton manager for 12 years. It just seemed like it just seemed like he was always going to be there. And he built probably the 4th team of his time.
Yeah.
And with that at the club. And you felt that this team had potential to achieve something again. We felt we were on the right track. You felt that with the signings he'd just made, if we hadn't won something that season, maybe next season we can really win something here. And it was disappointing when he walked away, but understandable when you're asked to go and manage the title winners at the time, when it could be our new manager. So I certainly wished him all the best. I've still got a relationship with him now. I think he's done a terrific job at the clubs he's been at in recent years, and it was a big influence on my career.
Yeah. How different was it then under Roberto? What was that like, having been under David Moyes for so long, and obviously the contrasting style of Roberto coming in, and obviously a technical player like yourself? Did you enjoy obviously that sort of change under the new manager?
It was different. I mean, the majority of what we did at that point was on the ball. Under David Moyes, we've done a lot of work off the ball for the first week or two, getting yourself into a certain condition to then be able to go and enjoy the ball. Roberto was happy to do everything with the ball straight away. There was some differences, certainly. David Moyes enjoyed the trips away during pre-season, let it power down. Roberto didn't really want to be away. He was upset that our first couple of trips were in America. I think we did pre-season in San Francisco and maybe Miami. I think Roberto didn't enjoy that kind of things. There were differences. But what Roberto did bring initially was a real freedom to sort of just go forward. Don't worry about what's behind you. I'd spent 12 years of David Moyes knowing I could get forward, knowing you had to go and express yourself, but also knowing there was a responsibility to your own performance about what's behind you. Roberto changed that. He wanted everyone to run forward. He wanted the fullbacks going forward. He wanted to find the balance from different places. Midfielders would sit a bit deeper and not get forward to. So it was different, but that unpredictability gave, I think it was Seamus and Bainesy at the time, probably their best seasons at the club, because they played like wingers. They defended when they had to, but they went forward. The wingers went forward. The holding players came from midfield. It meant I had to sit deeper. It meant different things in that way. And it worked the first season, definitely, because everybody still had that feeling of responsibility in their mind. But as things progressed, I think we got counter-attacked on so often over the next 18 months. They conceded 6 at home to Chelsea. I think Liverpool set up on 5 past us, and there was it was the moment. If we got it right, we looked great. It was good football. It was enjoyable. But if we got it wrong, we got really punished.
Yeah, I mean that first season, as you say, the fact that you'd experienced both Everton's highest position of 4th in 04-05, and then you went on to be part of that side that got the highest points total in Roberto's first season. I remember one game in particular when you were actually wearing the captain's armband, finishing that wonderful 3-0 win at Newcastle United. There were some incredible sort of displays on your day when things did go well.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was enjoyable. To play. It was a great finish. There was a freedom, there was a feel-good factor to the team in that first season. Everybody wanted to be on the pitch. Everybody wanted to play. Obviously, not everybody could, and there were some difficult conversations to be had when you're not playing. But when it went right, we were great. I mean, we brought in Deulofeu, who, on his day, again, on his day could be fantastic. We had Lukaku, who'd come in, Romelu, who was an out-and-out goal scorer. Ross was maturing into being the player that we knew he could be. And that day, I think Ron may have scored. Ross certainly scored a great goal when he ran from our own half. And I was fortunate enough to put one in the top corner in front of the Everton fans in the rafters in the last minute. That was a really enjoyable evening.
Yeah, and I've seen England come in as well in your 30s. I mean, did you expect it when you got the call? Obviously, it was Sweden, the debut, then the following year you'd played in the qualifying game in San Marino. When you got that initial call, did you have an inkling that it was coming your way?
No, not at all. I planned me little break because, when players go on international breaks, the rest of the squad may get 3 or 4 days off at a long weekend just to go power down, recharge your batteries. So I'd been doing that for 10 years. Every international break comes up, I'd be wondering what I'm going to do this time, and I'm planning what I might do. And Phil Jagielka asked me on the trainer pitch, what were you planning on doing this international break? And I said, well, I don't know, I might do this. And he just said, okay, and sort of chuckled to himself because he already knew at that point.
Yeah.
And then David Moyes got everyone together and announced it to the squad that I'd got into the England squad, which came as an incredible surprise. I believed him, but you still don't know until you get back into your personal belongings and find that phone call there to confirm from the England squad. So that was a great moment. But then to go away to Sweden and actually get to play in that first game in the opening of their new stadium, in that game where we were doing really well, 2-1 until the 78th minute, I think it was, and then Zlatan decided to just make sure that night was all about him. Scored an overhead kick. He scored 3, definitely maybe 4 goals on the evening, and it made it a little bit different having lost the game, but it was amazing to be out there representing England. My 7-year-old son had travelled over with family to watch the game. I got to meet him before and after the game. It was a special night. Yeah,
and obviously there's time comes for everyone when your time at the club does come to an end. I know you obviously, as we've been talking about now, and this forthcoming event, very much a much loved part of the Everton family. But I know, you and Tony Hibbert were rather miffed the way things ended when it did, because it was a time of flux, wasn't it? Roberto had just left and Ronald Koeman hadn't quite come in. Just the way it was handled at the time for someone like you said who'd made 433 appearances for the club.
Oh, look, I don't speak badly of it. You say miffed. I don't say publicly that I would be unhappy with anything that's ever happened, but it was probably disappointing. I remember being told that under Roberto that I'd still be at the club next season. Thinking that would fall into place. Roberto gets sacked. I didn't get to play in that last game at Goodison. I think that was as disappointing as anything. David Unsworth was the manager and decided not to get me on the pitch despite the contract being up. And me and Tony may have been able to stay another year. It didn't turn out to be the case. We were part of the guard of honour that clapped Tim Howard down the tunnel for his last game and his last hurrah at Goodison Park. Yeah. And me and Tony followed him out. But I suppose that was the way we arrived as well. Me and Tony, yeah. we came in through the youth team. We came in under the radar, get on with the jobs that we were asked to do, and then when you're done, that's it. Your time's up. But yeah, it was a different way of leaving the club after so many years. But you know, I'm still very much involved with the club now, so I think everyone knows what the club means to us.
Yeah, and obviously we don't want to finish on a sour note there. I mean, just your own memories now in terms of Goodison. Like we say, it's the last season after 100. It'll be 133 years by the time they go. You know, it is such a unique football venue. What do you think you personally will miss the most, and what are your most like treasured memories of your time? You mentioned those last minute winners of playing in front of the crowd at Goodison Park.
Yeah, I'll miss everything. Probably the thing I'll miss the most is the reaction to a late goal that Goodison brings. You know, I've had a full journey at Goodison Park, from watching from the stands, from every different stands that you could. I've seen a game from the mall, to going and playing youth team football in an empty stadium, to playing in a full stadium, to now commenting from the gantries, commenting on the games from a neutral point of view, best I can, you know. So it's been a full journey, but something that there is a constant, as I said, is when we score a late winner, when Goodison's rocking after winning a game that could have gone either way. Those moments, those noises, that reaction to winning that game from 2-0 down against Crystal Palace, those nights, I'll miss those nights at Goodison, absolutely.
Yeah, and in terms of the new stadium, I mean, like myself, you've lived through all various sort of stadium schemes and what it might have been, but I suppose that's one thing about going to Bramley Moor Dock. It will be that those sort of the stands are going to be tight. It's going to sort of replicate Goodison as best we can in the modern surroundings.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough that I've been to the new stadium. I've been able to see it progress through its different stages of development. I've been able to be ground level, be on the pitch. I was there before it was, a brick was even put in there. I've been only a couple of weeks ago to see what it's doing now. I've seen what the corporate hospitality is going to look like. I've seen what the normal seats are going to look like. Yeah, and it blew me away. It's going to be outstanding. The venue itself, how the new stadium looks, what it's going to mean to us all, and what it's going to feel like when they step on the pitch for that first time. It's going to be intense. It's going to be exciting, and I think I'm like everyone. I'm upset to be leaving Goodison, definitely, in the history it comes with. But I also can't wait to get in this new stadium and make it a real new Everton stadium.
Terrific note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us for a very special edition of Goodison Park, My Home. Leon Osman.